Welcome, students, to Chapter 14, The Crusades. Something that you're going to see during these notes is that as the Crusades drag on, their success is going to dwindle. Make sure that you are taking Cornell notes during the presentation on the right-hand side, summary at the end, as well as the big ideas at the end as review. The Crusades begin. The Byzantine Emperor is going to ask for help in fighting the Turks. So the initial campaign is going to be defensive war against the Turks. Later it will turn offensive to regain Jerusalem. Pope Urban II issues a call for a crusade or a holy war. The word crusade means holy war. So as you see right here, the Crusades are going to be this constant war between the Christians and the Muslims. Initially, it's going to be a defensive war to protect Byzantium, but then later it's going to turn into a crusade for the Holy Land. As you can see right here, the different types of crusades. The first crusade there in purple, the second crusade in green, the third crusade in red, and the fourth crusade in yellow. We're going to go through these. The Pope wants to reclaim Jerusalem. He also wants to reunite Christianity. So make sure that you write down the goals of the Crusades. The Pope is going to have this desire not just to initially protect Byzantium, but to use all of these soldiers to reclaim Jerusalem. The kings are going to use this crusade to send away knights who cause trouble. Now, as you can see, this is going to be a problem because the crusaders that represent the cross, that have the cross on their shirts, many of them are actually thugs. Many of them are actually bad dudes. So the Crusades become less of a missionary journey to convert and to be holy, but actually become very brutal. And so many of the Crusaders will not have any morals and will actually cause the cross to be shamed. Younger sons oftentimes join the Crusades in hope to earn land or win glory by fighting. So remember that during this time period, if you are a peasant, if you are of unnoble birth, then you really have no future. And so for many of these young men, they're going to want to fight in these Crusades to have that glory. Later, merchants are going to join the Crusades to try to gain wealth through trade. So the merchants are going to gain a lot of trade through this as well. So the Crusades, you're going to have a lot of differing reasons for this. The Pope having more of the moral reasons, the kings having less of the moral reasons. The first crusade here, the Pope promises crusaders who die that they'll have a place in heaven. 3 armies are gathered at Constantinople in 1097. You don't need to write that down. They're going to start off in Constantinople and make their way down to retake Jerusalem. The Crusaders are successful and they do capture Jerusalem in 1099. The captured lands along the coast are divided into 4 Crusader states. So as you can see right here, the purple, the orange, the yellow, the blue, those are going to be Crusader states that are created there. You also have the area of Jerusalem down at the bottom. Actually, the purple portion, as you can see, is actually part of the Byzantine Empire, so it's going to be the orange, yellow, blue, and red. The green is going to be Muslim. The Second Crusade, the need for the Second Crusade is because the Muslims take back Edessa in 1144. So part of the region that the Crusaders had won, the Muslims end up taking back. Make sure that you note in your notes that this is the Second Crusade. Therefore, Crusaders are sent to Edessa to retake it, but they fail. So the First Crusade was glorious. It took Jerusalem, but the Second Crusade is a total failure. In 1187, Saladin, a very important Muslim leader, a Kurdish warrior, he's going to retake Jerusalem. So in the Second Crusade, you really have nothing glorious that happens, but it sets up the Third Crusade. So that's really the only important thing about the Second Crusade, is that it's a failure that sets up for the Third Crusade. This Saladin warrior right here, this Muslim leader and Kurdish warrior, he's going to become important in the Third Crusade. The Third Crusade, make sure that you write that down. The Third Crusade is going to be 1189 to 1192, so about 3 years long. It's going to be led by three powerful rulers from England, France, and Germany. Though the First Crusade was the most glorious in the territory that it takes, the Third Crusade will be pretty glorious in the size of it. So you have England, France, and you have Germany uniting together. The most famous is Richard the Lionhearted, of course, the King of England. The story, book, and films of Robin Hood are going to be about Richard I's return from this Third Crusade. So while Richard is off at war, he's going to leave his son, or actually not his son, his brother, John I, which we'll talk about later on in our notes at another time. He's pretty weak, and so a lot of sheriffs and such as the Sheriff of Nottingham, is going to take a lot of power. And so people like Robin Hood, who were former Crusaders, are going to come back to the land and try to really bring a lot of peace and help out the poor people that need help. So keep that in mind, that the story of Robin Hood is during this Third Crusade, or at the end of the Third Crusade. Philip II, he's going to actually abandon the crusade after arguing with Richard. So France never actually makes it to the Holy Land, because in the journey they actually start arguing, kind of comical, if you will. The argument was actually over Richard breaking off an engagement with Philip's sister. You don't need to write this down. But kind of comical that Richard pretty much gave Philip's sister the cold shoulder, and so Philip never let him live it down. And so they end up arguing over during the crusade, and he ends up leaving. Also, during the Third Crusade, Frederick I of Germany, he drowns during the journey. He has so much armor on that as they're crossing a very shallow river, he falls off of his horse and cannot get back up because of his heavy armor, and he actually drowns in probably a foot of water there en route to the crusade. So tragic event, but a little bit on the humorous side. So as you can see, the Third Crusade really has a lot of problems going into it. And so Richard, King Richard of England, will really be the only one that successfully makes it to England. And he gets a peace with Saladin after a lot of battles. So there's going to be a lot of epic battles between Richard of England and Saladin, the Kurdish Muslim warrior. And they actually end up really appreciating one another and actually admiring one another. Though they are foes, they're enemies, they also have a genuine respect for one another because of how good they are at commanding troops and such. Saladin keeps Jerusalem, so actually the Third Crusade is a failure, but it's also a success in that he allows Christians to come and enter the city. So really, because of Richard's Third Crusade, the Christians are now allowed to enter Jerusalem, enter the Holy City. And so a nice peace happens after the Third Crusade between the Muslims and the Christians. Interesting point, Richard actually could have taken Jerusalem. He had the soldiers, he had the might, he had the tactics, but he knew that he would never be able to maintain and keep Jerusalem. So actually, as quite a brilliant and respected king and general, he actually opted to save the lives of his men and not take Jerusalem, versus taking Jerusalem just to give it back to the Muslims when they would retake it, because he didn't have enough forces to maintain Jerusalem. The sad thing is that actually Richard never actually ends up entering Jerusalem. He allows others to enter there, but because he never takes Jerusalem, he does not feel himself worthy to actually enter Jerusalem. So kind of a sad story there. The Fourth Crusade, and probably the most tragic crusade, is where the Crusaders are going to sack the Christian city of Zara and end up sacking Constantinople in 1204. Now you're probably scratching your head here and asking yourself, why are these Crusader quote-unquote Christians attacking other Christians? The reason is because there is plunder, there is new riches and territory that they can take. So this actually is a very sad reality of the Crusades, that it's not really holy crusades, but many of these crusaders are actually fighting for selfish reasons. And this is the prime example right here. These crusaders end up getting excommunicated by the Pope for their attack for riches. So the Pope sees this as not a good thing, not a glorious thing. The Roman Catholic Church ends up deeming this as unfortunate. Two other crusades will end up striking at Egypt to weaken the Muslims, but they're actually unsuccessful, so you don't need to write that down or know anything about the other crusades. So there's mainly four major crusades that take place, two of them being very tragic, the first and the third being a little bit more heroic of sorts. As you can see right here, a picture of the supposed Christian crusaders attacking the Christians at Zara and Constantinople. Really sad event where these crusaders are supposed to be Christians really show their true colors, that they are not Christians and that they are slaughtering these Christian neighbors here. Not a good picture of loving thy neighbor. The Children's Crusade is a crusade of note. Thousands of children seek to convert Muslims in Jerusalem through nonviolence. They actually die or are enslaved en route. So this is another tragic event. Now, I say Christians in quotations, or children in quotations, because there's a lot of doubt over this actually happening. Most historians actually see this as probably just poor people, not literally kids, going to the Holy Land to convert Muslims. So this event probably took place through nonviolence, seeking to convert the Muslims, the dying and the enslaving en route, but it was no doubt probably not children involved. Though the legend does say that children from 6 years old to 14 years old went on this crusade, but that's very doubtful. You don't need to write these down, but these are two stories about the Children's Crusade, the one from Germany and the one from France, if you wanted to pause and read about those. Then you also have the Spanish Crusade, which will actually be a 400-year, or actually 300-year crusade, 300 to 400 year. Most of the Spain is controlled by the Moors, and the Moors, you remember, are Muslim people. The Christians fight a reconquista to drive the Muslims from Spain. Spain has what is called the Inquisition. This reconquista means to reconquer, and so the Christians are desiring to reconquer this territory in here that is covered, that is controlled by the Moors, the Muslim Spaniards. If you remember the term conquistador, that is going to be a holy war in the Americas, where the conquistadors are going to convert the Indians to Christianity, but really be looking for riches. So keep in mind that 1492, Christopher Columbus, the New World, this Spanish Reconquista is the same time period as the Spaniard conquistadors. So reconquering for Spain and then conquering the New World as well. Spain is going to have this Inquisition. An Inquisition is the court to suppress heresy. This expels non-Christians through the use of torture. So basically what happens here in Spain is a very dark episode in church history, where the church is trying to make Spain less Muslim and less heresy and such, and so the church is going to use torture and use physical punishment to get the people to convert to Christianity. So we see a classic example of forced conversions. The Crusades and the Spanish Inquisitions are famous examples of forced conversions, which is quite unfortunate. The effects of the Crusades. This is pretty important. So the Crusades become important because it shows the power of the church. As the church is able to convince thousands of people to fight for the church and to give up their lives for the church, this shows a lot of the power of the church at the time. Women are staying at home, and so they're managing the estates. The business affairs are being managed. I mentioned about the story of Robin Hood. Robin of Locksley was a true man. He really did fight on the Crusades, and when he came back to Maid Marian. Now, Maid Marian was probably not that good looking. The sources say that she was not that great looking, but she was, as we see right here, a woman that became a businesswoman, that she managed an estate. She was able to become very successful in that way. So she's a strong woman. You also have the merchants expanding trade. They bring back a lot of goods from Southwest Asia, from the Middle East, and so there's this expansion of trade that begins. Also, the failure of the later Crusades weakens the popes and nobles while strengthening kings. So as these Crusades become less successful, yes, there's this power of the church that's being seen, but also the church starts to lose some power as the kings start to gain more power with these Crusades that are less successful. Also, in closing, you have the Crusades create this lasting bitterness between Muslims and Christians. Even though Muslims and Christians, the people of the book, are supposed to have this harmony, if you will, this tolerance, if you will, in theory, the Crusades actually, in reality, show there's this bitter divide between the two, and that the Muslims will remember these Crusades and not want to extend peace and hospitality, but extend war to the Christians. So make sure to do your summary, put the big ideas on the left-hand side of your notes, and a one-set summary. Be prepared to share in class. Thank you.